It is an opportunity to be here this morning to express my opinion on these national issues permeating in the corridors of our airspace. I think it is proper, it is important for people like us to state our opinion on the doctrine of separation of powers under the rule of law. I think this country, the path that the Republic of Liberia is on, we need to cue need to be taken. We need to look deeper. We need to do things that will help this country not to reverse to the ugly past that we have had. Now, on those basis, the first thing I want to speak about, I have been following the process that led to the purported removal of Yekewa Koluba from the offices of District Number 10 in Mosorado County. I think people like our opinion and our pieces of advice based on experience should be taken into serious consideration. When that ensued, I am not disagreeing with them that they don't have right, they don't have authority to remove Yeke Koluba. I think the process that led to the purported or so-called removal, it is where I have no problem. Now, see, we've gone almost 30 days. Now, no vacancy, even though the law says 90 days, that vacancy should be declared at the National Elections Commission, but nothing has been done. So if the court, they send stay order, I believe strongly what the justice in chamber is faced with right now, and this is my call to the President of the Republic of Liberia, that the other branches of government should not continue to be interfered with. I am saying the evidence by what Daniel Sando from the Ministry of Information said. That was to indict and desecrate the sacredness of the presidency of this republic. If you have people who got those kind of minds in the corridor of power, so many things happen. Daniel Sando has a privilege to sit and associate with the presidency of this republic, was able to say in public and told the world that we and President Waka removed Yeke Koluba for a single reason. The single reason for his removal was a statement he made about Liberia and the Guinean crisis. I think that was not his place. It was wrong. It's clearly expressed the interference in another branch of government. It means that the decision that led to the removal of Yeke Koluba was not an independent decision. It was being influenced. And if you come in the public and say that, it means that the constitution of this republic and the doctrine of separation of power that have been undermined by the executive. Now, the justice in chamber, Justice Kaba, I feel for him. When you pen pot the child, it will reach to a point that it becomes a dangerous thing. I think the Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court said a bad precedent that led to the removal of former Speaker J. Fonanti Kofa. Because when you start to play with people, when you start to temper around people who don't understand the law, will not have appreciation, when they violate the law and you tend to back them, they will always disrespect the court. I think this is the situation that we have. Now, the justice in chamber, from a reliable information, the dilemma is whether or not the precept that was sent to the House of Representatives was served. That is his difficulties. Now, if he cannot determine that that precept was served, there is a problem. Now, in the mind of Justice Kaba, that I have so much immense respect for in the judicial cycle of our country. Our young boy in Bong County, I witnessed and I saw this man presided over $4 million knockout of gold case. And during those days, Francis Wayagala, former senator of Bong County, they were the lions. When they spoke, the earth trembled. So this man challenged and said that this defendant, the man who were prosecuting these people, they were not going to get anything out of that case. Justice Kaba said the law will be the law, and he upheld that, dispensed justice. The ordinary people got the justice they want. So now, Justice Kaba has two issues in my mind. Constitutional issues were raised by Yeke Koluba, that law, due process are required by Article 38. We listen to our rules and order here. If you have somebody like that, advising the speaker, advising the leadership, this country is going to serious problem. Now, this man was saying, oh, here there is a doctrine that when you bring your lawyer here, you don't talk here. All you can do here is for your lawyer to sit down and for your lawyer to listen. And if anything the lawyer wants to say, then you talk to your lawyer, and then you yourself will answer for yourself. Where you do that? Then why you ask the man to bring lawyer? The primary responsibility of the client hiring a lawyer is for that lawyer to provide a defense for legal accusations that will be placed against the person. But right now, that did not happen. So Yeke Kolba is saying the due process laid down required by Article 38 cannot be determined by the House. Neither the rules of the administration can be determined by them. That authority is determined and defined by the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. And only the Supreme Court has the jurisdiction. You saw when the very group of people that the Chief Justice at a particular time, they referred to the Chief Justice as Lekoto. Now, you try to maximize them. At the end of the day, see the kind of disrespect that the court is having. And the court should not be in that kind of place. So right now, Justice Kawa should do the honorable thing, not to listen to any pressure again, as Daniel Sano said. Now, it has not come from the legislature. It's now at the judiciary. So, the judiciary now is now faced with a serious problem. Justice Kawa has to determine whether the stay order was served, and if it was served, it means that Yeke Kolba was not removed. Now, the benefits of Yeke Kolba must be paid to him. I walked to the speaker, and to no disrespect to Richard Kun, I think he was inclined. I spoke with him. I said, look, Mr. Speaker, until this matter is finalized or is determined by the Supreme Court, I think Yeke Kolba benefits should be given to him. I am not supporting, I disagree with anything that would disenfranchise this republic. I am not supporting the purported statement made by Yeke Kolba. No, I want to distance myself. I think the territorial integrity of our country must be protected by us who are leaders of this country. But the procedure is a problem. So right now, Justice Kawa is not embarrassed. I know that the like of Daniel Samuel will be going there and telling him, say, do the wrong thing. And Justice Kawa, I'm calling on the Supreme Court, the justice in chambers. It is about your integrity. It is about what will live after you. The cases that you determine, the way you adjudicate those matters, the international community, our international partners are watching you. They know what is right and what is wrong. So stand up for the right thing, stand up for the truth, stand up for the law, and know that the LAW is the law. It's blind, it sees no favor, it sees no authority, because any country that does not respect the rule of law, that country poised to go to war. Now, so that's some of the things I want to talk about. And then I strongly believe the issue from criminal code that were determined by the court. Now that I see, yes, the opposition, we should not make it look that this case, the only interest that the opposition had was about Samuel Tweah. For me, I distance myself. I think it was not correct. Yes, in as much as this is a victory, a better victory. That is, Samuel Tweah is released, but we got principal actors from the opposition that are not being incarcerated, that are being brought down guilty. So what is it? Are we going to be celebrating while those families are mourning, they are crying? I think what the opposition should be able to do was to empathize with those individuals that are being implicated in the verdict that talks about $6.2 million. So the CDC, the entire opposition community should muster up the courage. We should not see this thing as an issue that was Samuel Tweah versus the Republic of Liberia. It was the rule of law and establishing facts. Because the government went to court, yes. So it's not a win-win situation. The government was able to get rid of Samuel Tweah, lost the jurisdiction over Samuel Tweah being brought down guilty because they did not prove the issue. I want to say congratulations to Mr. Tweah, but how about Jefferson Kamo, the rest of the people that are now being brought down guilty? They're going to be in serious problem. So, we welcome that. The justice has been determined and the justice must be served. But we should also be able to look at our friends who are going to prison. That is what I wanted to talk about. And I listened the other day when Honorable Member Prince Mesa, who's my good sister from Bong County, made a statement. I think it was unfortunate and I want to publicly state that I did not participate in the removal of Speaker Kufa because I believe it was unconstitutional. It was a hijack of democracy. It was an attack on our democratic system, and I would never break about it. So when you state in international platform and they come in about chat rooms that we have and they talk about people who did not help to remove Fonati Kufa, removing Fonati Kufa will never, and it's never a victory to the Republic of Liberia, because we're seeing how the House of Representatives been run. Richard Moon and Thomas Fala cannot do all. The lieutenants that are associated with him, with them, I mean, they should be able to discharge that function. See, go downstairs. Staff of gasoline have been stolen. Staff of benefit been caught off. Now, people have found it very difficult. Now, it is insinuated, it is alleged, and I'm going to be putting a letter on the floor for an investigation that in fact people are asking people for money before they place them on payroll. That have never happened here before. Go in a corridor, do your own investigation. Staffers are going through all of those kind of things. I think it's wrong, and we should not have that kind of thing happening here. The pensions, benefits that were to be given to old people who suffer in this place, those monies have been stolen, they have been eaten. Nothing going on. Benefits of lawmakers, some of them, they took an armed veteran that more than 27,000 United States dollar gasoline was seized under the so-called suspension that they had, even though the court determined that what you did was ultra-virus, and then they came back and said, well, unconstitutional pay the people. They have not done that. So members and ladies and gentlemen of the press, I thought to state my opinion on this matter and call on the executive to withdraw from interference with the other branches of government and allow our integrity institutions to function, more especially the House of Legislature and then the judicial branch of government that should be the only arbiter of justice in our country. When they are tampered with like that, there is a problem. Lastly, I didn't think about that, and I want to talk about the President of the Republic of Liberia need to reconsider his action at the LAE. The Liberian land authorities in this country, if Q is not taking to do more due diligence about land matters that go to court and how those matters are adjudicated, now we will go back to a serious crisis. Everything that comes, there are two problems in this country. If it's not about land, it's about divorce, it's about this, so it's a problem. So I think the president needs to rethink about it and look at somebody who will be able to give proper information to the court about land matters. So thank you, and I will take one or two questions.
Yes, so on Cole, my name is Prince, and I report for Prime FM. So I'd like you to provide the clarity for us and the public. You mentioned that Joseph in Chimo, Joseph Kaba is now facing a dilemma into stating whether the rate from the court was received by the House or not. Now, on record, the Secretariat of the House told us, the press and the public, that rate was not received. As a member of the House, what's your funding? What have you gathered?
I mean, we should not do that. That has been irresponsible, and I hope that we should not be able to do that. Now, the sheriff of the court did his return, and the sheriff said the writ was served. So I am saying I have credible information that Justice Kaba is suffering. He's in a dilemma, whether or not, because the precedent writ orders have been served on secretaries, on office staffers in offices of the Supreme Court. So if you said that the writ was not served, then you are telling the Supreme Court is lying, because the sheriff did his return and said that the writ was served. So it's not in the place, or it's not the place of the House of Representatives to determine how orders of the Supreme Court are served. I mean, it's just a problem. That's misguidance. Whoever advising the House of Representatives will have the same situation during the Fonati Kufa incident. They have these kind of wrong pieces of advice. And when you continue to do that, you'll continue to culture, you'll continue to breed lawlessness at the House of Representatives and the legislature. That is what's happening. No freedom of speech. By the time somebody want to come after you because they believe that you will be backed by lawlessness. So how can the sheriff? So if the Supreme Court comes out and say the writ was not served, then the sheriff that did his return, of which for Yake Koluba people have copy of the return of the sheriff that the writ was served on this lady in the offices of the chief clerk. So, I mean, what happens? So they later need to be brought. So I am telling you that the writ was served to the House of Representatives, was not served to the House of Representatives. That is the determination that the justice in chamber has to make, because the justice in chamber knows very well that there are so many precedents that writ have been served in so many ways. They even give it to house tenants. They even give it to office attendants. They give it to people. So there is no specific way that writ or precepts from the Honorable Supreme Court or any other court should be served. That there's a prescribed guidelines of the Honorable Supreme Court. Now, this case is the litmus test for the justice in chamber, because if it said the writ was not served, you undermine the integrity of that sheriff. Then the sheriff should be dismissed and even prosecuted. Then the sheriff misled the Honorable Supreme Court. That is my call to the Chief Justice. And we are watching Justice Kabah very, very keenly with a distant political and ego eyes. That justice must be dispensed with our favor or fear. Do not, Honorable Associate Justice, give credence to Daniel Sando, who said the president removed Yeke Koluba. I think he desecrated the sacredness of the presidency and shifted doubt cloud over the presence of Joseph Yoman Boakai, because he shouldn't have made that statement. That is not a credible, and a deputy minister of integrity would never have made such a statement that he made. I mean, this is recklessness to the highest degree, and people should not be afraid to address what kind of pets.
Chief, thank you so much. My name is Archie Bong, and I report for the Verity newspaper. I have this concern regarding Honorable Yeke Koluba's statement on this entire border issue. From your end, what do you make of his statement? Is it in line with freedom of speech? As an honorable lawmaker, you have taken an oath to keep the sacredness of the House of Representatives and to push in the interest of the country. What do you make of that statement made on the floor?
Anything that tends to undermine the Constitution. I'm not members of the Supreme Court to define what freedom of speech is required by the Constitution. It's not my place. But I believe that everybody has the right to speak, but there is a responsibility to the speeches that I made. So I cannot tell you, the first thing I want to say, I would have never encouraged or support anybody coming in my house to try to burn my house. Or my son come out and say, yeah, the man was right. Even no matter what I have done in my house does not give anyone the legitimacy to come in my house to try to burn it or evict me from out of my house unlawfully. So I do not support the statement if you made that statement. That would be determined. There's a procedure. I think the government, the statement made by Daniel Sano undermines the integrity of this government. Let's assume that Yeke made a statement that was treasonous. What the procedure was, in my mind, the Ministry of Justice should have written the speaker. A statement made attributed to Yeke Koluba undermines the national security interests of our country, because a Guinean soldier is dressed up in their military paraphernalia and they cross the river and can planted their flag on our soil. That is a military invasion. And Yeke is supporting that. So Yeke immunity should be lifted by this honorable house or allow him to face justice. And Yeke should have been investigated. And Yeke should have been charged by whatever crime and sent to the court. The court should have the opportunity, and Yeke should have the opportunity, to go to the court and defend himself and bring his proof. And if the court determines that Yeke is guilty of treason, Yeke, that was going to be a ground for his removal. That was the procedure. But people want to please the awkwardness of the law. They want to please their masters. So even if they tell you go and kill, you will go kill. Because those who, like the likes of Daniel Sano, who said it is a president that all remove Yeke Koluba, why you take pride into that kind of statement? That doesn't make sense to any civilized democratic system. How you take pride? So I believe strongly, Yeke as a lawmaker, and all of us as lawmakers of this republic, we should be responsible about the comments we made in the public, because people are looking up to us for leadership. You don't just speak recklessly. So I condemn any reckless speech. We should not just make statements and make altercations about issues that we don't have a justifiable reasons. We should not.
Yes, sir. So my name is Aaron Kuba, and I manage DN News Liberia. I got two concerns. Just on the point that you just relaxed on about Yeke should have been, turned over to the court. What would you say about your rules that calls for reprimanding members if they bring the body to public disrepute? Doesn't that fall in line with it? If Yeke's statement, like you just mentioned, it was reckless. His statement was irregular.
I didn't tell you that Yeke's statement was reckless.
You mentioned reckless. Someone making reckless statement. So if such a statement you want to consider as being reckless,
no, when you're in class, when you listen to the instructor.
When you consider that as being, you mentioned recklessness.
Yeah, but I didn't say Yeke was reckless.
So if someone made a reckless statement as a lawmaker, don't you think it falls in line with bringing the body to public disrepute, at which the law laid down by the legislature can be used to reprimand that person? That's one. Secondly, do you believe that due process was exhausted in this case? Because there's one of the issues that a lot of Yeke ran to the court for. I know you may have said that along the way, but in mentioning the word due process as to whether it was actually applied or not, do you or do you not believe that due process was applied? Now, to the case of Samuel Tweah, the folks in the opposition believe Samuel Tweah was the hook of the entire case, and he had been left off the government's target to be found guilty. He was found not guilty. And you are saying you are condemning the act by some individuals who are celebrating. They say that Jefferson Campbell and the others are your personal friend, or this is a sincere.
No, I think as a leader, let me start with that. As a leader of this country, and we should not set a precedent that will make ordinary, so to speak, ordinary members of the opposition to be afraid. I mean, we should not give them an opportunity that they should not be able to fight for opposition, because it's not about big names. What I'm trying to send to the opposition as a bloc, as a unit, it should not be about big names. It should be about the lowest. If somebody comes from the lowest to the top, if that person has an issue, the opposition should take that as important as Samuel Tweah. If Jefferson Campbell is convicted, it should be a side day for the opposition. So let me tell you what going to happen. If Samuel Tweah was going to be brought down guilty, and then Jefferson Campbell and the likes of the others released, the opposition were going to criticize the government. They were going to criticize the government, and that was going to be wrong. I mean, the whole scenario surrounding their action, not a smart game. The fact that members of the opposition has been brought down guilty, in my opinion, yes, there were not sufficient evidence produced or adduced in court against Samuel Tweah, but the others are on the hook. So why are you celebrating? Because Samuel Tweah is released, D Tweah is free, D Tweah is free. So the opposition celebration, yes, we could have just said, Honorable Samuel D Tweah, congratulations, that at least you are off. But all of us, the opposition should make a statement by this time to say we empathize with the rest of the people, and if they are remedies under the laws, they should be able to take advantage of that. That's what we should be talking about. Asking all the opposition members to keep kind, because that's one of us. The second thing I talk about recklessness is not only about lawmakers, it's about all citizens in the Republic of Liberia. You should not just make reckless statement. That's what I meant. I did not say Yeke made reckless statement. I am saying if Yeke made a statement that you feel was reckless, and then you want to prosecute Yeke for the procedure in my mind, that the executive, because listen, I am taking my cue from what Daniel Sano said. So it's not even the letter that was written by Small Barba. Daniel Sano is saying the single reason that we remove, the president removed Yeke Koloba for, is because Yeke made this statement. So it is now Daniel Sano that have indicted the government. So the Daniel Sano is telling the 73 of us that we are not independent. They can dictate to us what to do. Even they can tell, okay, one of your colleagues, we will do it. That is what Daniel Sano is saying. It's so sad. So Daniel Sano is saying, we just use more mobile as a stooge to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. That is what he's saying. And I think it is wrong for our democracy. So I oppose that. You talk about due process. I'm not the victim. I'm not the accused. So I can't determine whether due process were accorded him or that. The man who have ran to the court is saying, I did not get due process. He's a victim, right? He's the one that is injured. But in my mind, listening to the chairman on Rules and Administration, you say, oh, you know, we got precedent here. When you bring a lawyer can't talk for you. Who in a civil life? I questioned what is happening at the Arthur Grant School of Law. You award degrees to these people and come sit down and embarrass the whole country like this? Somebody who say you come from Arthur Grant School of Law? Is that what you're saying? That you wrote somebody, bring your lawyer. The intent of bringing my lawyer is for my lawyer to defend me. Now, but you tell me, no, you just bring a lawyer might just sit down and listen. A lawyer without rules here. My brother, you say you went to law school. Article 38 says due process. And that due process is not required, it's not laid down or defined by you, the chairman on Rules, Order, and Administration. It is defined by the Constitution, and the interpretation hangs on the Honorable Supreme Court. The man should be entitled to his legal representation at every stage. Even our rules require, if you accuse me, you should produce evidence against me. Okay, when you are producing, you are required to produce evidence against me. It means that there should be a full hearing, right? Somebody should be able to defend me. You should be able to look at the evidence, whether the thing you said about me are true. But now you can't say no, because, inducement. The chairman on Rules, Order, and Administration and some of our colleagues were under the influence and affluence of Daniel Sano. That was happening. That was political alcoholism.
Yeah, Honorable, just a follow-up, please. Just a follow-up on that issue of the due process and lawyer coming to represent, those invited at the House or the Senate or even member of the House when there are needs for investigation. As legislative reporter, I have unique. Your practice as member of the House, you always invite people to come with lawyers. And when they come with those lawyers, they are not placed on oath. They don't make statement during the year.
Who not placed on oath?
The lawyers are not placed on oath. As in your practice, I would say. So the committee has said it's under that doctrine they were acting.
Which instance can you cite?
When, for example, when officers of government are invited by the House, by the legislature, they are told to come with their legal representation. When they do come, the lawyers are not placed on an oath. The lawyer do not IQ what we see in the courtroom. I just want a little clarity on that.
But the thing is, we have quasi authority, right? Mm-hmm. And we do investigation. Let's assume that the director of LPRC committed a crime. To no disrespect to Samuel Tweah before, he listened to this and then come after me. I'm not saying he committed any crime, but I assume that happened, and then we invited him. You know, many times you see that lawyers are speaking, the invitee is just allowed to make a statement. There are background conversations. When my can appear, forgot about the lawyer, even though we invited the lawyer, but this is another, maybe, I don't want to say it's not a serious matter, but background conversations are held. And based on a background conversation, but an issue where you intend to expel members, that person must be accorded the full due process, because you know why? You intend to do something serious about that. Also, most of the invitations that we send out, so now even the people appear, we say, okay, that go in the wisdom of the speaker, the leadership, and say, okay, you know what happened? We send for you, we say, bring your lawyer, and you should answer why you should not be held in contempt. If you actually determined to do a full contempt hearing, that lawyer would not be placed on an oath, because he or she is not the one who committed whatever crime. It would be the person who you invited. The lawyer will be able to defend why that person should not be held in contempt. But when you have private and civilized conversation behind the scene, then you don't say, oh, it's a practice. It's not a practice. It's not normal. So somebody like me, if I were a former chairman on Rules, Order, and Administration who has an experience and proved legally, so to say, because I've been here for long, I've been around lawyers, even though I did not go to the Arthur Grant School of Law, that I'm bitterly discouraged to enter there, because their products can say tolerate and they use all kind of elementary conversations. So those are, how I say, political alcohol.
Where are you referring to?
Okay,
The people who have made those statements.
finally, from my end, this is Emmanuel Willie Conway from Fish. Taking cue from the Yeke Columbus issue or Saka, what do you think? What are the reforms you think are needed to prevent similar disputes at the House of Representatives?
I think the House, that's what I talk about, the respectability to the rule of law, for the rule of law. In this country, the executive should understand that the legislature, more especially, if you have a speaker here that is not secure, doesn't feel secure, the speaker feels that his being here is completely characterized by the executive. Now, that speaker is not going to be independent. I am hoping that there will be an opportunity in the 56 that those individuals that will come here, and there should be a law. We also thinking about it, talking to some of our friends who are in the international circle, that were the Ghanaian members of the parliament too. The most difficult person to remove in Ghana is the speaker. It's difficult. Because you know why? Now, Comrekun, they said it here. If President Vargas has placed court and say, you're expel Marvin Cole, whether I did wrong or not, they will start to find the fault to expel me. Because you know why? He did not merit it. He was forced, driven into the speakership, and he's there. So if I were in a case, like doing George Weah administration, and George Weah influenced me being speaker, George Weah tell me say tomorrow morning, Prince from Prime FM, make sure he will not enter that building. You will not enter here. You will enter. Because my protection comes from there. If I try to disrespect him, one soon morning, Richard Kuhn, they selling everything will take it from him, he will walk around there like Marvin Cole. Now when they took the Roosevelt administration from him, he began nobody. Thank you, members.
Thank you.